and welcome to this tutorial about transitions. Today I want to talk about mainly how to safely practice basic transitions, mainly in the sun salutations. So this isn't a full class, but we still do a little warm-up, some exercises, some examples, and I hope that helps you for your practice to make it a bit safer, to get a better understanding of what the transitions, basic transitions are about, and hope it helps you and you can integrate some of the strengthening exercises into your practice as well. So to start, we're going to come into tabletop, so bring the hands up in front of you, wrists underneath the shoulders and the knees underneath the hips. We're just going to do a quick mobilization of the most important joints. So start with rotating in circles above your wrists, above your hands, to warm up the wrists a little bit. And then take into the movement your hips as well. Sitting down onto your heels through one side, coming back up on the other side, drawing huge circles over your wrists and then over your knees. Like that, we warm up a little bit the shoulders, the wrists, the hips, the knees. And turn around, moving into the other direction. Back into tabletop, tuck the toes under and lift the knees off the mat, coming into a plank position, making sure the wrists are underneath the elbows, heels push back, the core is really engaged. It's very important that you're not hanging through here, not sticking your bum out. Maybe you have a mirror where you can check on your position, or you ask someone to check if your shoulders, hips and heels are in one line. So this is already a good exercise to warm us up or to strengthen already the core. We really want to push our hands into the mat, pushing the shoulders, the chest away from the mat to create space underneath our body. Don't forget to breathe. And on an exhale, lift the hip up. Push into the mat with your hands, bringing the chest down, the tailbone up towards the ceiling. You can bend the knees, especially in the beginning of your practice, lengthening the spine. So in the sun salutations you will find, or in any other flow or sequence, find a lot that you're asked to step between your hands with one of your feet. So ideally, this would look like that. Smooth and without any noise. But in reality, in a lot of cases, it looks like this. Or it sounds like that. Or bringing the leg back like that. So we want to do some exercises today to avoid these mistakes, to make it all smoother. It will feel easier after a while once you build the strength, and you will also avoid injuries. So to start with, come into downward facing dog, and on an inhale, shift your weight forward, come into plank. This is already an exercise that you can do as a preparation if you keep pushing the mat away from you. On exhale, back into downward facing dog, forward again. Strengthening the core, the shoulders, the arms. Exhale back, inhale forward plank. Exhale back, and we're going to modify a little bit. This time you come up onto your toes, around your back while you shift the weight forward, so creating even more space between the mat and your shoulders, and the mat and your chest. So you come maybe even over the wrists with your shoulders a little bit. We don't want to collapse here. So go only as far as you can, maintain the strength here. And exhale, down again. Inhale, come onto the toes, round the back, shift the weight forward, chest away from the mat, push into the mat with your hands. Exhale, back again. A few more times. Just as far as you can go, without collapsing in your shoulders, just as many repetitions before you damage your shoulders or your wrists. Listening to your body. The next thing, to get our knees high enough, we also come forward, shift the weight forward, but lift one leg off the mat, pull the heel up towards the buttocks and the knee forward, upward towards the forehead. Coming back again onto the mat and forward. Really creating space for your leg underneath you, pushing away from the mat, pulling the knee and the foot up as high as you can. On both sides, of course. You can also vary this exercise with bringing the leg up and back at first, then lifting up on the toes of the other foot, and from there rounding the back, drawing the knee forward, upward, creating space underneath you, pushing into the mat, and back up again. Same on the other side. Foot back and up, coming onto the toes of the other side, and then drawing the foot close to the buttocks, knee up, forward, and towards the nose. Anytime you need a break, you can come down into child's pose or do more repetitions of each exercise. Make sure you're not putting too much pressure onto your wrists. You can mobilize them in between, stretching your forearms, and just stop with the exercise if you have any pain. So you can also observe where you're at in this exercise, in this transition. So observe yourself when you step forward. How far can you get without dragging the foot? Observe yourself if you maybe automatically lift one hand off the mat a little bit to cheat. That's also okay in the beginning. Just be aware of it and conscious about what you may be doing already automatically without noticing anymore. Or if you're drawing your foot back like this with a big noise. Also observe the difference between both sides. Usually we're not the same on each side. And with these different exercises, we already have a few things that we can practice and improve these movements until it gets a really smooth and silent step forward and also backward. To continue with some movements of the sun salutations, usually we start in mountain pose. On the inhale, arms up. If you do a little back bend, make sure you're not compromising your lower back, sinking in there and having a lot of pressure, but engaging the core, lengthening forward, upward, and rather bending out of the shoulders, out of the upper back, instead of only the lower back. Stretching up and back. On the way down, making sure the back stays straight as long as possible. Maybe even bending the knees, and then relaxing down into the forward fold. To step back also might help you to, first of all, on an inhale, come up and lengthen the spine again, maybe even with the knees bent, and also bending the knees before you actually step back. Also smoothly, without noise. Equestrian pose, you can open up a little bit the chest, tuck the toes. Here again, the stepping back, lifting up the foot first, pushing into the mat, and then stepping back, lowering down, knees, chest and chin. Inhale, cobra, scooping forward, making sure again not to push too much pressure onto your lower back, tucking the tailbone in before you come up, leaving the shoulders low. And here it's important, going back into downward facing dog, that we're not dragging ourselves up, coming into a hollow back, and then somehow coming back. If you have trouble in creating a strong middle of your body and a smooth movement coming back from cobra with a strong core into downward facing dog, it's probably better to just come into tabletop first and then into downward facing dog until you have the strength in your shoulders and your core for a smooth and safe movement here. Really lifting out of your core. And then on the way, stepping forward again, we have this transition movement, knee down, opening for equestrian pose, stepping forward smoothly again, forward fold, and now important on the way up, especially if you come from a deep forward fold, probably your back isn't 100% straight. So in this case, you want to bend the knees a little bit to straighten the back and come up with the straight back. Arms up, maybe another slight back bend with your back protected, tailbone in, core engaged, lifting upwards, and then back into prayer pose or mountain pose. But you also might find, especially in sun salutations, that you get the instruction to either step back or jump back. The jumping I only recommend if you're really stable in your core and your shoulder, because it can really damage your joints, your back, especially your lower back. So what might happen is that you're not really flexible enough anyways to reach your hands down all the way onto the mat, or only if your legs are very bent, which makes it harder again to put pressure on and lifting the feet off the mat. Or you're also dragging your feet over the mat. Or, and this is the biggest problem with this one, you might jump totally alright, supporting yourself here, having the strength in the shoulders, and then do this, really crashing into your lower back here, not having either the body feeling of when your body is straight, or not the strength to maintain, to stop the body, the movement in a certain position, maintain it there. So we really want to be strong enough to, well, with your knees bent is totally okay, but having the strength to lift yourself up here, at least for a little moment, to jump back. So you don't actually want to jump too much out of your feet, but you want to support your weight also on your hands. And even if it's just for a little moment, you can practice little tiny hops, which is very important, also coming back, jumping forward. So landing, you really want to have a strong core. I usually recommend to just step, it's safer and doesn't require as much strength. So strong core and really controlled movements. The slower you jump, the better, the more controlled you step back or jump back. And the same coming back, either from downward facing dog or sometimes from plank. Usually you bend the knees first a little bit and then hop forward, really putting weight onto your shoulders, onto your hands, onto your arms, and smoothly landing between your hands. So this is quite some strength that you need here, and you might either land back here or collapse with your shoulders forward. So I don't recommend this until you have done a lot of exercises and you can be sure that you won't damage your shoulders or your back. So again, jumping back should be smoothly and should be maintained by your core strength, landing in plank. Same hopping back, smooth. What you can do if this doesn't quite work yet, or you just want to start to do some exercises, you can just hop partly, so you step back to the middle, hop the rest, or do little hops until you're in the right position. Same coming up. So this should make your practice safer and easier. If you're having trouble with all what I just showed, you can also try to use blocks. This should make a lot of things easier for the beginning. So you can do the exercises placing blocks either flat or like this. Up high is probably hard to come into downward facing dog as they will move forward. So maximum this height. And there you can jump forward much easier. Same back. Always trying not to bring too much pressure onto your back and the forward bend, not rounding it too much. Always trying to keep it straight. And jumping, really making sure you're not sinking down here. Or you can use the same to come from a plank or a downward facing dog into a seated position, either with straight legs or crossed legs. Again, making sure it's controlled and slow and you build the strength first. If this doesn't quite work yet, you have a lot of exercises again that you can do. Mainly strength out of your shoulders, your arms and your core. So you can be, for example, in a cross-legged position, just lifting your bum up a little off the floor. Same with your legs in between the block, sitting on your heels. You can just lift up knees, doing 10, 15, 20 repetitions, or you lift also the heels off. This all supports all your transitions, building strength, building core, creating space between you and the floor, and creating body awareness. Of course, you can vary with the height of the blocks here. Just make sure if you're jumping back and forth or moving back and forth, you don't have it on the high ones, but if you're static, you can also use that. It's an extra challenge for the balance. Or you can use the blocks flat once you have created a little bit of strength already. In general, always basic exercises first, creating the strength, core strength, slow movements, controlled movements, smooth, without noise, and just observing yourself where you're at, starting with little exercises, practicing on your sun salutations. You can also have a look at a sun salutation special that might help with a few alignment cues as well. And of course, always mindful movements, really being conscious about your movements, really feeling your body moving slowly, being fully concentrated and in the moment when you're practicing. One more little thing that I want to mention about transitions in general. If you do back bends, be it camel pose, wheel pose, whatever back bend, try to do a little twist or a child pose in between before you go into any forward bends. So we want to avoid the compression on the back, having the back bend in your back followed directly by a strong stretch of the spine. Also with twists, if you do an intense twist, for example, just a seated twist, and you stay there for a while. You find the bind and go quite deep into a twist. You want to slowly release, maybe do a little movement forward or slightly into the other direction to release a little bit of the back. And have a smooth transition to the other side. Releasing the lower back. Especially with back intense, especially lower back intense exercises, you can always do some releasing of the lower back, or also some core work to stabilize the lower back again. If you're lying down, always make sure you engage the core. A really nice exercise to release tension in the lower back are slide twists, for example, bringing the knees down to one side and the other side. The same, of course, if you're more advanced and you want to do things like jumping from crow into a chaturanga. So you need to be very careful. For this you need a lot of strength, so I don't really recommend that before you haven't done a lot of chaturangas, a lot of strengthening exercises, and you want to avoid hurting your back. So I hope these exercises, this information was helpful and can improve your practice a little bit and make it safer. Thanks for watching.